We have met so many girls who are called Maafi, which means an apology. Girl called Naraz Nath. I met her in Ajmer and I said to her, Beta, tumhara naam Naraz kyun hai?
Safina, of course, I wouldn't be exaggerating if I said she's a legend in the social sector.
I actually, after high school, I didn't study. 3 years I was out of school because of family circumstances. But I never wanted to be like an immigrant. I didn't want to settle down. I think for me, it was very much about seeing the world and learning.
Her company was the first recipient of the Ramon Magsaysay Award.
This year, Ganesh, the topper in Rajasthan in open school is one of our girls. The topper in Madhya Pradesh is one of our girls, Bunty and Mamta. And they both come back to education after 10 to 14 years. Organizations working for children, like you had Cry.
Hi and welcome to this episode of Unmute with Ganesh. And for me, it's a real pleasure to have a very good friend, Safina Husain, on this show. So Safina, absolutely welcome to the show. And let me start by asking you that you're such a great leader, all of us respect you. So at what stage in your life did something clink in your head and say, I'm destined to be this great leader?
Thank you, Ganesh, first of all, for having me here. And honestly, there's no point in life where you kind of say like, oh my God, I'm destined to be a leader.
My last guest said I always knew that I was destined to be a great leader.
Okay, I definitely didn't know. When I was growing up in Janta flats, one room tenement,
Where,
having
Mumbai?
just like chai and like 3 slices of bread in Delhi.
Oh, okay.
That's the time you don't think. You're just like surviving day to day. You never think like, oh, one day I'm going to be a leader. I don't think that really was my journey. But I have to say, like, I think you reminded me when I was in the 10th standard. I was in a school, and for some reason, they had elected me captain. You have your 4 whatever houses, and I was captain of the Red House. And the sports day was coming up, and the Red House was fattu in sports. We had no like spectacular athletes. We had nothing going on. And so I was like, oh my God, as a captain, I need to lead this house. So I kind of built a strategy. I said, participation ke number milte hain. So we brought the entire house together, and we said, every single one of us will participate in the maximum number of sports activities. And so that's what we did. Every single person, and I did the running, and I was famous for looking like a cross between an ostrich and a camel while running. But I was like, everybody participate. And actually and then some people came third, some came fourth, so you got even more. And Red House came first. Like in some 10 years of the history of that school, in sports, it was the first one. And
then you knew you were a born leader.
I kind of felt like, there's something here. There's something here. In terms of building a strategy, and then bringing everybody together around that strategy and that vision. So I would say that was my first sort of taste of it.
Awesome. I remember I was also in a Red House in school in Jharkhand, and that was very pretentious. It was called the Hastings House, but we came last at everything. So I can't claim leadership from there. So tell me after that, what happened? So that was Delhi, and the Red House happened, and then what's the journey for the next 10, 20 years after that?
Yeah, the journey has been like kind of all, over the place. But I think when you look in hindsight, it all kind of feels like it was all very well plotted to get you to where you are. I actually, after high school, I didn't study. 3 years I was out of school because of family circumstances. So everybody said, iski shaadi kara do, divorcee ladka hai, 4 bacche hai, aur kya karegi? And they would be like, bichara Yusuf, uski beti to kuch nahi kar rahi. But I had an aunt who came into my life. She really helped me. I went and lived in her house for 2 years. She motivated me to get back into education. And I ended up going to London School of Economics.
That's quite a jump from not doing anything for 3 years.
What unconditional love can do, and that's what she did. She just like loved me to bits. She's still in my life. She's like my pillar. And she really believed in me. She said, nahi, ho jayega, arey karo to, and then I became the first person in my family to go overseas for university. Then I said, ab to baki dunya dekhni hai. I moved to San Francisco, started my career in the Silicon Valley.
From London School of Economics. You did your bachelor's?
I went from London, to the Bay Area. I lived in San Francisco for 10 years. Started in the Silicon Valley, quit after 9 months, saying, ye to na ho paega.
What kind of role were you playing in the Silicon
Oh
Valley?
my God, entry level, like, working for a startup that was making a 3D web browser in 1995.
But you were a techie.
No, I wasn't a techie. Man, I learned how to do HTML. I was making the
Okay.
basic website and. But I was doing more of their accounting, their finance, and the just general entry level position. Didn't enjoy it very much, so I started volunteering for nonprofits. And that's how my nonprofit career started. I ended up
In the US.
in the US. Okay. So I was the first employee with, again, a very tiny nonprofit working in health. So with them, I ended up working in Ecuador, Mexico, Bolivia, South Africa. When I started with them, they had like $50,000 in the bank and, very tiny program in Quito. I grew them to 5 countries, 250 program partners.
But you were
Much
actually running
larger.
it, or you were playing a role in that thing?
I started as a volunteer and then I was the executive director. So I was basically, I
What
was
was
leading
the
it.
duration during which you became volunteer to executive director?
It was pretty fast because I was the first employee, and then it was just employees below me and partners. But I would say just like about 3 to 5 years.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, and that's when I also kind of realized like I wasn't a doctor, and I worked a lot with doctors. I wasn't a healthcare professional. But again, I sort of discovered things about myself. I like to scale things. I like to take risks. I'm not afraid to, go where which maybe other people would not. Yeah, and so in Ecuador, I worked not just like in the Andes, like not just in Quito, but like in the Ecuadorian Amazon jungle. I ended up working with Shuar tribes for like 3 years, working across the Pastaza province. I worked in Kailicha, which is like South Africa, in Cape Town's largest township. So
How
it
come from
really,
Ecuador to Cape Town?
because the organization was based in San Francisco, but we had projects and programs all over.
So same organization, but different.
But same organization, but I sort of scaled them and ran these projects everywhere. And kind of discovered, like I landed in South Africa with like 3 contacts in my, from San Francisco. I said, please, koi hoga to bata dijega. And then built an entire program in like 3 weeks. So I realized like that's a skill I had about, scale and the nonprofit purpose was really sort of important. And then I was in Oaxaca in Mexico, and a shaman invited me for a ceremony. And I was lying there, like they do all this like stone meditation on you and all that. And the shaman said, I see you in education. I was like, haha, my own education was so patchy.
Seriously?
Like,
Wow.
he said that, like, this was like 1999 or something, and I just laughed it off. But then I came back to India in 2005. And then you think back and you see like how your education was so transformational.
So when was London School of Economics? Which year? Did you finish?
I graduated in 1995.
So there's like 10 years between that.
And then 10 years, yeah. And then came back. And my dad was here in Mumbai by that time, so I moved to
What
Mumbai.
made you come back? Such an exciting life. I would never have come back.
But I never wanted to be like an immigrant. I didn't want to settle down. I think for me, it was very much about seeing the world and learning. But I always wanted to be back in India. So I came back and
To Mumbai.
And then started Educate Girls. I also had a baby. So I had a baby and a computer screen in front of me and started the organization with a handful of people in Rajasthan. And today, over 3,000 employees.
What was the motivation then? I mean, okay, you started an education organization. Why Rajasthan? What was the mission, if you will?
So I knew like girls' education was really important for me because of everything that I had seen in my own life. And the particular focus was on the out-of-school girl. Because I knew how you feel. You feel shame, you feel guilt, you feel like a failure.
So you had that experience
I'd
yourself.
had that experience myself. So it was really, for me, that was my purpose. And at that time, when you did the analysis, you kind of felt like there were a lot of NGOs working in education at scale. You had Pratham, you had phenomenal organizations. You had a lot of organizations working for children, like you had CRY. But I kind of felt like there was a space for girls' education because the out-of-school girl needs a very strong gender lens because the default doesn't necessarily work for her. But you're right, Ganesh, I had no idea where to start. So I went to MHRD and I asked them, I said, this is a very large country, sir, but where should I go? And they gave me a list of 26 critical gender gap districts. This is the gender gap in education.
They had that data.
In enrollment.
They had that data.
And out of those 26 critical gender gap districts, 9 were in the state of Rajasthan. And they were kind of like a necklace. They were just like then this sort of a semicircle. Bang in the middle of it, like a pendant, was Pali district. So that's where I started. And I asked the government, I went to the state government, I said, Api gaon de do, where you have the hardest problem. They gave me 50 villages. And then it scaled up to 500, and then 1,000, and now it's 30,000 villages where we work. Still focused completely on the out-of-school girl.
And for those of you who are watching this, I mean, I'm on the board of Safina's Educate Girls, and we recently, just a few months back, went to Pali, Rajasthan. It's quite an amazing experience just to understand the real India, what happens in the villages, how young women almost lose hope, and then they maybe get new hope thanks to Educate Girls. It's quite fantastic. So Pali was the first crucible of experimentation, if you will.
Yeah.
And then what happened? How big was that when you kind of did only Rajasthan? Educate Girls was how big an organization? People, etc.
Sorry, so we started in Pali.
Yeah.
Then we scaled across Rajasthan. From Pali, we went to Jalore, then Sirohi. And then we actually started adding 3 districts annually, which is like 3,000, 3,500 villages, up to 5,000 villages. Every year we would add. And then moved to Madhya Pradesh, UP, and now we're across 12 states where we're working on the ground.
And what's the model? I mean, do you have your own people in all these villages? Or
Yeah.
do you have different partners, or how does it work?
Yeah. So the model is very interesting. I was thinking about it the other day and I was reflecting and I was like, I can answer this question saying I was so strategic, I did this and I did that. But actually when I think about it, our model is based upon a Team Balika volunteer. And that's somebody who is Team Balika, who can be a young man or a young woman. They are young, they're educated. Because they're educated, they understand the value of education. And we have 1 Team Balika per village. And with them, we go door to door and we find every single girl in the village that's out of school. But I was thinking about it and I was actually, all I'm doing is I'm replicating my aunt. I'm replicating that compassionate individual in each of the villages. So it's very much still based upon your, I would say, your shadow self or your...
But a typical Team Balika would be influencing how many out-of-school girls?
A typical Team Balika would work in their village.
Yeah,
so depending on the number of out-of-school girls in that village, it can go... In some areas where we first enter, it can be about 70 to 90 girls. And it just depends on the door-to-door survey. In some villages, it can be 30, 40 or 20, also depending on the size.
So they will talk to the families.
They talk to the family, they counsel the parents, we do village meetings. And then on every 8 to 10 Team Balika is our first full-time employee. So it's also a very high-touch model because the field coordinator is actually supporting them in a very heavy day-to-day way. So we do identification, enrollment, and then once the girls are in school, we actually work on learning. So we do Hindi, English, and math in the government schools where they're enrolled. For the older girls, we do life skills. And for girls who cannot go back into formal schooling because they're overage, they may be 15 and above, they've had a gap, they dropped out in the 5th or 6th or 7th, we run a second chance program called Pragati. So that's the 2 sort of programs that we run. One is Vidya, which is grade 1 to 8, which is in school. And then there is Pragati, which is for the older girls.
So Pragati is not managed by the Team Balika?
No, Pragati is not managed. For that, we have a Prerak. And 99% of our Preraks are female, who are again based in the village. And then they run a learning camp in the village for the girls to pass their 10th grade.
I see. So neither the Preraks nor the Team Balikas are direct employees of Educate Girls, right?
No.
So how do they get the passion that you have and your team has?
For all of us, I think we all have to be mission aligned. So our recruitment is all about that. Every single training is all about that, is aligning people to the purpose.
Including the Team Balikas
Including
and
the
Preraks.
Team Balikas. So the first activity in our training is very much about saying, why am I connected to this cause? So exploring and reflecting on why this mission matters to us.
It's not just a job.
So it's not just a job. It is absolutely everybody. Even our fundraising team is called Purpose and Resource Mobilization because they're not about raising money. They're very much about raising money for that purpose. So every single department, every single person is here because their heart beats for the girl child.
That's amazing. So tell me, I mean, from your own background, I mean, this whole heartbeats for the girl child, and I've heard you speaking at so many forums, including TED. So what is it that drives you? Today, for instance, when you're successful, everybody knows you, and you still have that sense of purpose. How do you keep that intact?
I think you keep that intact because you go to the field and you see what the situation is. Right? Even today, I think almost 50% of the girls in our country will not complete the 10th grade. And if you don't complete the 10th grade, even if you're a daily wage laborer in Manrega and you want to become a supervisor, you need a 10th grade. You want to get an entry-level job. I met a girl who runs a tiny shop in her village. And she said, I want to expand my shop. So I want to buy more stock. Formal bank loan के लिए मुझे 10वीं का certificate लगेगा. You're in skilling. So many of the skilling courses require a 10th grade certificate to be able to enter. So imagine the exclusion. Women and girls have hold up half the sky. But imagine the size of the exclusion that they will face. You cannot be part of the formal economy. And therefore your marginalization increases, right? तब आपकी शादी जल्दी होगी, you don't have voice, you don't have choices, you don't have agency. And that is what is, I think, driving all of us, saying, how much more can we do?
So you don't get comments like from some villager who says, my girl was all ready to get married at the age of 13, and you guys kind of conned her to stay in school, and now she doesn't want to get married?
I have to tell you, I met a girl recently. She just passed her 10th grade exams through our second chance program. And I was just talking to her, and she's from the Bhil tribe in Rajasthan. And I said, Beta, padhai kab chuti thi? And she said, she was calculating, and she says, I'm 18 years old. और मेरी पढ़ाई 10 साल पहले छूटी थी जब मेरी शादी हुई थी. So imagine that girl had been out of school for 10 years, but she'd been married at the age of 8. And she says कि मेरे in-laws को नहीं चाहिए था कि मैं जाऊँ पढ़ूँ अभी भी. But now I've fought with them and I've come to the camp and I have passed. So I just had to, I said, so are you telling them that अब पास हो गई तुम? She said, अब मैं क्यों बताऊँगी? अब तो गांव वाले बताएंगे.
Ah, that's so nice.
And it's that change that you see, right? She's like, अब मैं क्यों बताऊँगी? अब तो गांव में सब लोग बताएंगे कि देखो इनकी बहू पास हो गई है. Right? And that's what kind of is.
I remember, Safina, you also mentioned that even the way people name their girl child. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, there are, and this is symbolic of the sort of mindset that women and girls have to face. We have met so many girls who are called Maafi, which means an apology. Girl called Naraz Nath. I met her in Ajmer and I said to her, Beta, तुम्हारा नाम नाराज क्यों है? She says, because सब इतना नाराज थे जब बेटी पैदा हुई. Girls called Achuki. Achuki means arrived, not wanted, arrived. लड़की का नाम missed call, क्योंकि भगवान को कॉल लगाया था बेटे के लिए, but he missed our call. उत्तराखंड में एक मैकेनिक थे जिनका पहला बेटा हुआ तो उन्होंने फर्स्ट गियर उसका नाम रखा, दूसरा बेटा हुआ तो सेकंड गियर, बेटी हुई तो रिवर्स गियर. रिवर्स गियर. लड़कियों का नाम फालतू, which means useless. So there's all of these are symbols. कि मतलब our lust for the male child is so high कि वो लड़की को हमेशा उसके दिमाग में रहे कि you are not the one who was wanted. लड़की का नाम गणकी, which means enough.
So what's been the impact so far? How many girls do you think you would have influenced, or families you would have influenced?
Yeah, in the last 18 years that we've been, 20 lakh girls we have found and we have brought them back into school. We have a retention rate of 85 to 90%. So we track them year on year. We stay in a village 6 to 8 years to make sure that we work with 8 to 10 cohorts, which is you're really driving for generational change. So 20 lakh girls, we are now, our second chance program is pretty much the largest second chance program in the country, over 30,000 girls. This year, Ganesh, the topper in Rajasthan in open school is one of our girls. The topper in Madhya Pradesh is one of our girls, Batti and Mamta. And they've both come back to education after 10 to 14 years.
Awesome.
We've had Halima from Munger in Bihar, whose mother passed away during COVID, and she has got distinction. And these are girls who had lost all hope कि कभी मतलब पढ़ाई कर पाएंगे, कभी आगे बढ़ पाएंगे. So it is absolutely phenomenal. And it's phenomenal because the teens are so energized. They work every day like it's their last day. कि आज मतलब इतना होना ही चाहिए.
And when you disengage from a particular district or a village or a state, what happens? Does the government take it over, make sure it continues, or it just kind of collapses?
Yeah. So I think the way we work is sustainability is kind of built into it, right? So there are a few things that we do. one of the things is sometimes people equate scale with saying हम 10 district में हैं और हर district या 10 state में हैं और हर state में 50-50 गांव में काम करते हैं. That is not what scale means for us. So we take like a whole district or a hotspot that is identified as that this is the hotspot for out of school girls. Then we saturate every single village. So earlier when we started, we would saturate an entire district. So agar Jhabua mein has...
So saturation means every girl identified.
Every single village you would have a team balika in the district. So agar Jhabua district देखेंगे तो Jhabua में अगर 800 गांव हैं तो हर एक 800 गांव में आपको educate girls का volunteer मिलेगा, आपको हमारी team मिलेगी. Every single house of that district would have been knocked on to find out of school girls.
So how do you disengage?
And so you, first of all, you saturate, then you stay there for 6 to 8 years so that you actually finish the problem. Then you move by handing it over to the community on one hand. So your team balikas are still, they're from the district, they're there. You hand it over back to the program, to them and to the government. And secondly, we've had a government adoption. So our learning material, a lot of the state governments are like, yeah, दे दीजिए हम ही इसको फंड करके आगे चलाएंगे. So there are two aspects of it at a state level also, at a village level also, and plus a community ownership. So those are the ways in which, but we continue to track those districts over time. So every 2 years, every 5 years, we'll go back and do a dipstick to saying, has the problem reversed? If it has, then we'll go back and work. So there's some blocks in Rajasthan where we are still present after 15 years, because वहाँ problem भी solve नहीं हुई है. Because it's migratory population, incredibly poor and tribal. जहाँ support की ज़रूरत है, तो support की ज़रूरत है. So we will not disengage till we know that, the problem is.
And to use a corporate jargon, what is your TAM? What is your total addressable market? How many such girls are there in this country who need Safina Husain?
So I will tell you why restricted to the country. I think what drives us, there are still 133 million girls globally who are not in school.
Really?
Obviously, yeah, 133
age group
million. This would be your school-going age group, right? But it's not even that number. If you look in India, abhi India mein primary mein you have a 2% dropout. Middle school it goes up to around 3% or so. The secondary is where we see a large 35 to 40% that are dropping out. So that's our addressable market. But also that's just the flow. There's also the stock that has actually dropped out in the last 5 to 10 years. वो लड़कियां अभी भी, if you're 27, 28, you still have your whole life ahead of you. So our addressable market is huge in that sense. You're looking at around 91 million girls. If you add the...
So if there are 91 million girls in India, I mean, it needs 40 Safina Husains to solve that problem, doesn't it? Or is the government going to step in and say, we'll do it?
Yeah, I think we do a lot of government partnerships because you're absolutely right. You can't, and educate girls cannot do it. NGOs, I think, whatever we do is still a drop in the ocean, right? The biggest player is the government. So yeah, we're working with a lot of state governments now, 12 state governments to actually drive this. And this stock that I was talking about is really kind of like your NEET population, essentially, right? They're not in education, employment, or training. So we see them as well as a constituency of ours that we want to work with.
Okay, that's amazing. And I still remember when I first joined your board 5-6 years ago, I think I met this amazing woman called Santana, and she was talking about the whole machine learning, data analytics. So what made you realize that, look, I mean, you need to employ a lot of technology to make your work more purposeful?
Yeah, I think technology is a huge driver. You can't scale today without really having a technology backbone. For us, it was, when we would go into a district, we were knocking on doors, right? So like I gave you Jhabua's example, you would go to every single village, every single door in that district, right, that you would knock. And then what we would see is patterns, that even in a district like Jhabua, 80% of the out-of-school girls were actually in 30% of the villages. And we saw this pattern every time, again and again. And so for us, it was like, how could we predict beforehand which those 30% of the villages are so that we could just saturate those, right? So we needed to identify hotspots within the sort of districts that were listed as gender gap districts, right? And that's where AI ML came in really, really, really. It's very powerful. We can now actually predict the number of out-of-school girls in a village using this. And that actually accelerates your impact. So if I had to tell you, our last 5-year strategy was about 1.5 million girls. That was our goal. Without the AI ML, it would have taken us 45 years to find and then bring them back into school. With the AI/ML, because we could do precision targeting of villages and hotspots, we were able to do it in 5 years. So that's the major acceleration that you get because of the use of technology.
No, but that's quite amazing. And in fact, for those of you from the corporate sector watching this program, I mean, I can assure you there are so many social sector organizations who are probably using artificial intelligence and machine learning, what is so hyped up today, that much more effectively than corporate. So I think there is a lot to learn from the social sector as far as this is concerned. So let me ask you the final question about Educate Girls, and then we'll switch to Safina Husain. And I remember when I joined your board, you were the hands-on CEO, making everything happen, being there like Jhansi Ki Rani everywhere. Then, of course, you had Maharishi as the CEO, and now you have this amazing woman, Gayatri, as CEO. So how have you been able to let go? I mean, how do you ensure that other people take on the mantle and drive the institution forward?
I mean, I think part of your role as a leader is to be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
Is to be able to grow talent and to grow
So that's
leadership.
theory. How do you do it in practice?
How do you do it in practice is you find the things that really give you joy. Like for me, program design. And that's what I'm really good at, right? Strategy is what I look at. Making sure that everything aligns to the purpose and the mission. So I spend all of my time doing those bits, which I'm really good at and which are much more valuable to the organization rather than running the day-to-day. So yeah, I spend a lot of my time doing strategy, supporting fundraising, program design is, and then making sure that your values and your culture are baked into all of your processes, all of your program design elements, so that they're not some separate silo that you kind of go back to things. And spending time on the field. Like, what more could I ask for?
No, but I
It's a
remember-
gift
I
to
remember
have
even in
gift to have
COVID-
Gayatri and to gift to have the CEO.
No, that I agree, but you're also mentoring them and making them successful. But I still remember in COVID days, I think you were holed out in Khandala somewhere and still running camps for children and everything else.
Yeah,
So
the
it's kind of in your
COVID,
blood,
yeah,
right? That you have to
yeah.
make a difference every day.
Yeah, COVID was, I was outside in a tiny village, and then I started teaching tribal kids in another tribal woman's home. And then I did it, and then everybody else in the leadership started doing it, and then before we knew it, we had 5,000 camps running during COVID.
Awesome, yeah.
So it is quite incredible.
So let's talk about Safina. I know you're married to Hansal Mehta, who's of course one of the great stars of Bollywood today. So what's life for you apart from Educate Girls?
Life for me is, we're very kind of homey people. He loves to cook, so most of the time he's cooking, and all of us are hanging about waiting for him to finish cooking so we can eat. Yeah, we're not very party people or anything. We're very kind of homebound, just hanging out with the dog and the kids.
Oh, how many kids do you have?
We have 4 in total.
Really? Wow.
Yes. So yeah, and 1 dog. Now my son also has another dog, so now we have 2 dogs. I should remember. But just like
his
very,
dog,
very,
his
very.
dog versus your dog, or how does it work?
No. Both the dogs are really sweet. He's got a puppy. But yeah, I know. So, and I leave work at the office, so I never come home with like, aaj ye stress hua ya ye wo, nothing like that. So it's very chill. Yeah, we like to read, we like to watch movies, we like to go on road trips and travel.
So that's your de-stressing, being at home.
Yeah, it's completely. It's very separate from our work for both of us.
So what do you think? I mean, today when I talk to Gen Zs and everybody else, everybody wants to do a job with purpose, maybe not be a Safina Husain, but nevertheless do something very different from the run-of-the-mill, being in a bank or being in a IT services company. So what do you think people should look for? I mean, from your own background and where you came from, there are a lot of very well-to-do kids, single child or 1 or 2 children, and very kind of assured in their Maslow's needs hierarchy. So how should they look at life? What should they be looking for? What is it that will motivate them like you're motivated today?
I don't know. It's very hard. I think.
What do you tell your kids?
What do I tell my kids? I think what I tell my kids is that they should try a lot of different things. We were driven, a lot by circumstances and by trauma and whatever. So in some ways, the path was kind of chalked out in that sense. But I think for them, it's really about trying on a lot of different things. The world is changing so fast. And I also kind of look back and I say, I did dishwashing in London. I worked in the tandoori kebab center, like making naan and chapati. I did bookkeeping for small businesses, gave tuitions, did fundraising for the LSE. Like every job you could imagine, I have probably done it at some point or the other. But at this point, I have learned so much from that. And so I think the purpose doesn't come on day one. You have to like kind of dip your toes into a lot of different things to really be able to form a sense of yourself and what is it that you really kind of enjoy doing.
You're saying experiment a lot.
Absolutely, experiment a lot. And now our lifespans are so much larger. Like nobody's going to have one career in their life. Right? They're going to have multiple careers. So I think experiment a lot, put yourself out there, make yourself uncomfortable. I think the only thing they shouldn't do is like, I see a lot of young people come into the nonprofit sector and they want impact on day one. It's like, doesn't happen. Like, when you go to the field, you could just have one good conversation, but it doesn't mean impact has happened. I think somewhere that patience, I think they need to kind of bring in a little bit more. But it's also the sign of our times, right? It's a real time and it's whatever. Patience is.
So have
It's a hard
have there been
skill.
times in the last many years of Educate Girls where you've lost patience and you think this just doesn't work and what on earth am I doing here?
Yeah, no, definitely. Many times, I think. But I think also like I have learned over time and with age that the only thing you can really do is manage your own energy. And if you manage your energy, everything else kind of falls into place. And I wish like, people or mentors had taught me how to do that a little bit earlier in life. Because you get impatient, you get burnt out, you get stressed out only when you're not able to manage your own energy.
Say a little more. What does manage your energy?
Manage your energy means to be kind of centered, right? To be focused and to be centered. And that leads to a level of calm, and therefore you can see things more clearly and from a distance. So you don't take everything personally at that point.
Are you more spiritual that you have that veneer of it doesn't really bother me at an intrinsic level?
No, it bothers you. You want change, it bothers you, but you don't attach yourself personally to it. It should not disturb your energy in a way. So, for example, to manage I get like very stressed, I get very anxious because I'm also hyper vigilant. If I feel like, "Arey, is ladki ka kya hoga?" then my hyper vigilance makes me kind of dysregulated, right? Because I want to go and like fix things immediately. But I do like a 6-minute meditation to just kind of center. When you center, then you kind of realize like, okay, I need to take 2 steps back. I need to do this, that. You're able to see pathways a lot more clearly. You're able to deal with conflicts a lot better. Rather than just reacting, you're able to kind of, it doesn't happen all the time. Huh? Like the days it happens, I'm like, oh my God, this is a good day. For most of the days, you're like, shit, I should have managed this a lot better.
That's interesting. Okay, Safina, let's close with the high point of Educate Girls. I mean, I still remember you told us once that, look, there's something great going to happen, and it happened in the Ramon Magsaysay Award. How did that happen? I mean, was it like out of the blue, or were you preparing for it?
You can't prepare for it. I learned from Susan, who's the president of the Ramon Magsaysay Foundation. She said anybody who self-nominates or gets somebody to nominate them is automatically disqualified.
I thought it was supposed to be a Magsaysay awardee nominating other people.
I don't know, because she hasn't told me what the process is, and she's not asked me to nominate anyone. But honestly, I got a WhatsApp message saying we want to speak to you from an unknown international number. So I just ignored it completely. And it was like multiple messages later. And then I was like, please call the office. I was like, please talk to so-and-so. But it was shocking to me that they had been to the field and we had no idea. They had actually seen our work. They had come into the head office. I don't know under what pretext, but they had met the team. They knew like major exits, they knew everything. And so they had been watching us for years before they decided to make Educate Girls the first organization to receive this honor, which is
So is the first organization in India, or how does that work?
First organization in India.
Okay.
So there have been 60 awardees in India, starting with Vinoba Bhave, Mother Teresa, Satyajit Ray, etc. And this is the first time a non-profit organization, which is amazing because every Team Balika owns this award, every team member, everyone. It's a great recognition for everyone who's been working on the cause.
So what's the future for Educate Girls?
The future is 10 by 10. 10 million learners in the next 10 years. That's our goal that we want to reach.
Awesome. That's really amazing. And tell me one last question. A lot of
How
us.
many last questions, Ganesh?
Well, with Safina Husain, you can never really end with questions. There are so many questions and so many answers. But you are seen as an amazing fundraiser. I rember the Audacious Grant and so many other things you do. So is it a conscious Safina Husain is the world's best fundraiser, or it just happens to you?
No, I think it's, I don't see myself as a fundraiser, by the way. There are a lot of people who raise a lot of money, right?
Okay.
I raise money the hard way because I will not go, if people say, come and do this behind my factory, I say no, because I go where the problem is the worst, right? Majority NGOs work in urban areas or peri-urban areas, close to, metros. We work in the most remote areas. So I think what raises the money, and also we have very few donors, by the way. We have maybe less than 100 donors who actually fund the whole thing. It's about, again, purpose, right? There are a handful of people in this world who are aligned with this purpose. And those are the people that then fund us and then stay with us. So Michael, who was my first donor, is still funding us. LGTVP, donor number 2, is still supporting us. Katia Philanthropy, 15 years it's been that they've committed, right? So it isn't that, they have 600,000 retail donors and they have this. It's a very small community of people who really believe in the mission, they believe in the strategy, they're buying into your organizational strategy.
But you found that community and the community has found you.
And so that's the thing that, and you have to be really, I have to say, there are a lot of people who offer a lot of money, but you have to have when purpose is at the center, you have to have the ability to say no. And that's the other big thing. We say no to money if it doesn't align with our mission and purpose. But I think the core is not that we are the best fundraisers, it's that we are very mission aligned and we stick with our purpose and we make good strategies and we also execute. Our execution is excellent. It's really, 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 I think, tremendous, even at scale. Like I said, we're working across 30,000 villages, but the quality is there. We launched the world's first development impact bond in education, right? Because there's a results orientation to everything. There's a technology backbone. So excellence is really what then keeps people.
I guess it's also, as you said, the sense of purpose that kind of pervades everybody.
But just purpose alone is not going to be enough. You've got to back it up with really strong execution, really strong results. The development impact bond results were outstanding. 92% of the girls were in school. Our external evaluations show that our learning outcomes are equal to an additional 1 to 2 years of schooling for the average child. So again, you can't lose excellence in just, wrapping it in the mission.
No, my own theory is it's also, I remember almost 15 years back, we wrote a book called Inspired, where we interviewed 20 inspiring people in this country. And there were a lot of people, including Chandrababu Naidu and so many others, Anu Aga. And we discovered one common theme, which is passion osmosis. That they are extremely passionate people, but the ability to, a process of osmosis to kind of infect others with that passion is very strong. So I see it in you all the time. But thank you, Safina. And I hope your 10 by 10 will work out. And also wish you 10 times more fun than you're having today.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Real pleasure.
Thank you.